introduction. I hope I live up to it. So it's great to be here. I am part of the team at GE. I've been at GE for just over 5 years, and I started, I guess it was around 2011, in a position created for original content production and storytelling, and basically saying the world's a little bit different, so how are we showing up as GE? And as we went out to do that work, we always kind of came back to this guy, Thomas Edison, and we often come back to this quote, I find what the world needs, and then I try to invent it. But the truth is, we have a journey that's over 100 years old as a brand. We're 330,000 people. We operate in 175 countries. That's a big entity to represent. And often, folks know us for what they see in their homes, right? Light bulbs and appliances. And so we had to start to think about, how do we show up in a different way? How do we evolve? How do we embrace change? And who do we want to be? And how do we find human connection? So at the corporate level, we really had to think about the perception of GE and whether we were doing a good job of opening our doors, and where we found those points of connecting from 330,000 humans inside GE to the humans outside of GE who also had a love for science and technology and the wonder of the future. And so we started to think about who are the people at GE and what are they really bringing to life. And telling those stories, right? Telling more of those stories, always with a little dash of that Thomas Edison magic. And also, where are our audiences? So without being kind of too precious of where we told this story, going out to find our audiences who were enthusiasts, who were business decision makers, our own employees. And so our map of where we started to show up became much different than just GE.com. And we're a big fan of going where our audience is and also trying new channels and new platforms. So things like Instagram at the time, Snapchat, Yo. I did a lot of work in virtual reality, and we continue to do that as a business over the last year and a half. And seeking to tell the stories of the teams building things like the Tier 4 locomotive, which was the first locomotive in the US to meet the EPA's new emission guidelines, the GE90 commercial jet engine, which is the most powerful turbofan engine out there. They say it can suck the air out of Madison Square Garden in seconds. I know. Don't stand in front of it. Our history in MRI and imaging, and in the 80s, it was a GE researcher who was the first to go ahead and put his own head into an MRI machine to see if it could render a helpful brain scan. That level of courage of the folks who are working and operating at GE and with our customers in these 175 countries in some of the most remote, unimaginable places, top of wind turbines, the Australian desert, and what have you. And always seeking to create these moments of wonder and not tell our stories alone. So early on, what we kind of said is, we think we have some interesting experiences here, and we don't want to tell these stories alone. So how do we invite the creative community into our labs, into our factories, onto our test sites to tell this story with us? Now, it's not so easy to get a group of 12 Instagram photographers into a jet engine test site with working Wi-Fi and the ability to publish right at the moment, but we did it. We've done it on YouTube, where we've worked with folks like Kid President and ASAP Science and the Slow-Mo guys, again, to bring them inside the world of GE and hopefully deliver some value for their audiences that have a stake in our story and our work in one way or another. And then we looked at virtual reality as this new medium that, again, solved that challenge of opening our doors, both to see the machines that we are building and also to start to model out some of the work that we're doing at GE Digital, where we are saying we have an incredible footprint of hardware, and now how are we layering data and analytics and software on top of that to give our customers and our partners an increasing level of productivity and an efficiency in these markets that are only harder and harder to operate in. And so that's the story of kind of what we've been doing in 5 minutes, of what we've been doing over the last 5 years, and a lot of the work and exploration that I've been doing. But we've heard a lot about change, about disruption, about I think there was a comment about being afraid to do something new because it invalidates what you used to do. And I think we're definitely a brand that embraces evolution and runs towards change, and we're always seeking to drive that culture within GE. Thanks.
But don't leave.
But here I am.
And in fact, we were going to have her on stage even with GE. It has nothing to do with GE being a sponsor. It's almost coincidental that the fact that we have 2 GE people. We really just wanted to hear, because you're just an interesting thinker about what's happening with marketing, and you've done a lot of innovative things. And I just wanted to ask you, one of the things that came up earlier today, I don't know if you heard Dave Morgan and Carolyn Everson. Were you here when they were talking?
Yeah,
but this
fabulous.
idea of the primary job of the company being marketing and innovation,
Yeah.
that's would I assume resonate with you. And anything on that is interesting, but how do you feel about the thing I was trying to push on, this idea that really you're talking about a whole new cycle of creation and that the process of innovation has to be altered by the process of marketing. And how much does that inform the way you guys are thinking?
Yeah, I mean, yes, a good corporate entity founded in marketing and innovation being the primary goal. I love that because our primary goal is generally just to get jet engines and gas turbines out. So I'm into that. You know, I think in that respect, marketing is really about understanding your customer. And so Carolyn made a comment about you know, a different level of metrics. So is it about impressions? Is it about conversions? Or is it about I got this data set of what my customer really needs, and I got it faster, and I got it at more scale and in a more targeted fashion through some of these digital platforms? I think is critical. And so, you know, when we think about how we're reaching our customers, is that insight that we get from marketing necessarily going to go right into the design of a gas turbine? Maybe not at this point, but it may go into the design of some of our services and training and re-engagement with the customer at events or when they come into our space, 100%. And I think we're always, you know, we're not necessarily a marketing organization. That's not necessarily how we grew up, but we're definitely evolving and growing in that capacity in leaps and bounds.
Well, another interesting thing about the extremely effective advertising you've been doing, which it's hard to actually say what is its purpose when you're talking, I mean, the GE's been doing corporately these humorous ads about going to work for GE, which I'm sure everyone in the room has seen, or pretty much of you. If you haven't, I'd be surprised. But that they're really kind of marketing a whole bunch of different things all at once. They're marketing an image of GE. They're actually directly targeting a challenge of recruitment. But they're also, in effect, advertising products. I mean, is that all deliberate? And how is there a kind of a new marketing thinking necessary to sort of achieve a whole bunch of different results at once?
Yeah, it is certainly deliberate. We have a fabulous Chief Creative Officer, Andy Goldberg. And you know, I think what was amazing about the Owen ad, so as at the corporate level, at kind of the overarching level, even at the digital level, one of the stories that we work really hard to tell is the benefit of having a number of different units together. So we end up with quite a bit of rotating technology, for example. Our engineers were the first to build jet engines in America. We got that because of our competency in steam turbines and the ability to build that rotating technology. We take things like X-ray healthcare technology and use it subsea for oil and gas pipeline inspection. And so we're always telling the story of kind of those points of intersection. There aren't, you know, many other companies out there that have the portfolio that we have, and the benefit that and the value that drives. And then I think with Owen, it was introducing an entirely kind of new layer to that around GE Digital and how we're now looking at this layer of data analytics on top of that. And also being a little bit self-aware, right? Understanding some of the challenges that we might have in as we kind of bring GE Digital to the fore, some of the perceptions, maybe misperceptions that people might have coming into it, which is, you know, we make big, hard machines. And the truth is we actually have an incredible set of software engineers that work at GE as well, and we're building up a new vision. And so I think you know, we're always seeking to tell that kind of combined story of the value of these units and be a bit self-aware in the process.
Yeah, and another element that I didn't even mention that you're doing is you're advertising to those 330,000 people and reinforcing their own confidence that they're in the right place. Because clearly you're saying this is a cool place to work, and you're doing it in a compelling and humorous way. It's got to be multifaceted in its benefits.
Yeah, I mean, any message that we have, you know, if we go internal, it's the equivalent of messaging to a small country at 330,000 people. And it's just as important that every one of those people has an opportunity to feel the culture and believe in it. And that's a challenge in and of itself, is how do you drive change and how do you establish a certain psychology at that scale, I think is something that we're always going to be workshopping and kind of tweaking.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for being here to tell us about it. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Katrina.